Hi, my name is Chris and welcome to this video on using big data to drive outcomes. This relates to learning objective 7. This is evaluating big data from all sorts of sources to try and achieve efficient and effective business outcomes and also inform risk appetite. The example I want to use is a large logistics company that most of us should know, DHL, right? They collect a very large amount of data, structured and unstructured, right? All sorts of different places that they get this data from. It can be weather reports. Think about it, obviously understanding the effects on their supply chain, traffic, but also their customers. Not only what do they want, but how do you manage the risks when they don't get it in time? Capacity planning, geo-localized data just means the GPS element, but knowing where everyone is at the time, because you can do things like route optimization, maintenance of your fleet, all sorts of things here. What are they trying to do? Two key things: more efficient and effective operations and better risk planning. The insights that you want to draw when you evaluate big data is one important thing to note here. They need to be tailored for the outcome, right? So if you are capturing data on physical assets, the maintenance of all of your trucks and your planes and your vans and your bikes and everything, how are you going to use that to make a decision about how you manage those assets? Everything from capital expenditure in asset turnover to where those assets should be placed location-wise. It's going to be different to the data in 3PL and large logistics warehouses. It's going to be different to what your customers are after and how you talk to your customers. So it's important, if you just produce the same great detailed analysis of large data sets without tailoring it to an audience, you will find it hard to get good decisions at the other end. So let's look at 6 things that DHL do with big data. One of them is real-time route optimization. There's a term in the industry, last mile delivery, and that basically means the closer we get to the package delivery, to the end point, tends to be the more inefficient the process becomes. So there's your focus. You make that efficient, you get the best gains. So obviously in Melbourne, you would love to know what all the traffic is doing all the time, and you're able to do that. Then you've got some potentially disruptive things useful with how you use big data. Brings some challenges: crowd-based delivery and pickup, using members of the public to help with that last mile delivery. Right? But of course it brings challenges. They don't know the DHL processes and systems and even culture to a great extent. What's the likely reliability of these people? Are they happy to be tracked wherever they are? Right? But again, they collect this data because they're trying to implement innovative solutions to the key logistical problem for them, which is that endpoint, the last bit of getting the package to the destination. Now, strategic network planning, we can think of this as scenario planning. We can also link it pretty quickly to this idea of predictive analytics. We want to know where there might be congestion in the system. Right? A simple example of that is that you have planes that arrive at destinations. It's costly to keep them at the destination in terms of gate fees. There's too many packages for the plane. Right? The physical supply of items that have to be transported is too great. The plane needs to take off. That's congestion because there's packages left over. How do you do this scenario planning that predicts when it's going to happen before it occurs? Because then you can send a larger plane, you can send 2, or more likely, I think DHL do this, you start to send the packages to different places where you know they'll get picked up. They don't all have to leave from Melbourne if some of them can leave from Sydney, because they may be on multiple flights, right? It's quite complicated. And so again, you need quite detailed analysis of real-time data to do that. Now, obviously strategic planning and operational capacity planning are going to be closely linked. Here is a greater focus on all the different pieces that go from the start to the end. You have pickers in warehouses, and those pickers put things on pallets. Those pallets are then marked and have to be mixed in the right way so that when they go on a truck out of the warehouse, that is the most efficient distribution of the areas that they need to go to. You do not have pallets for the south of Sydney and the north of Sydney on the same truck, because it's not going to get one of those 2 destinations in a great time frame. All right. So operational capacity planning deals with things like congestion. Again, it is probably more close to the real-time data. If you think about the network planning as well, that can be quite broad. That can be related to your capital expenditure, because you want to predict where you need to build the next warehouse before you need it. 18 months out, if you can predict where that warehouse needs to be, then you can have a competitive advantage over your rivals, right? Operational capacity planning, think about it in terms of the data analytics of more real-time data. You're looking closely at your costs, and you're trying to ensure that you have the most efficient use of your resources in order to deliver the value to the customer. Now, customer loyalty management does even exist in logistics. Think about it in terms of detraction to your brand, right? They tell me on a text message that the package is coming, then it's not coming. So they don't tell me, I'm the annoyed customer. If they explain to me, yes, it was meant to arrive on Friday morning, it's not going to get there until Saturday afternoon. At least you're managing expectations. If you're managing expectations, you're managing risk. So there's always a bit of a link here, and customer loyalty doesn't always have to be thought about just learning what your customer wants in order to get them to buy more, right? And there's two customers here, isn't there? There's the person at the end, me receiving the package. There's also the customers who are paying DHL, who are in a lot of cases, say retailers who want to get their packages out. They want to do it efficiently themselves, and they want it to be cost effective, right? But you want to understand which customers, your retailers, are actually going to do well and are expanding operations, which are steady and which are declining. And you can get that information now. Something that was so much harder, that was relationship management with your account managers, is now much closer to real-time data and understanding how your customers are performing. And finally, risk evaluation and planning. Why is this important? Well, we have very disruptive events like a COVID-19 epidemic. What's happened in e-commerce, it's actually increased. We've all been sitting at home buying things. So you have this slight irony here that organizations like DHL have had to consider where networks are down, where they're not able to supply at the same amount, because Australia's doing fine, but other countries are having huge issues in terms of the health effects. And so how do you distribute in India at the moment? It must be pretty hellish, but also I guarantee there's a lot of people in India who are ordering e-commerce products that DHL need to deliver. The risk value evaluation and planning can also be about your capital expenditure. It can be about where are your growth countries and how are they going to grow? How is Africa, as it's becoming a richer continent, going to grow in terms of where logistics needs to be? It's a lot of forward planning. And of course, these are not mutually exclusive. It's going to link back heavily to strategic network planning. And finally, just to show you, we can't read this detail, it doesn't matter. It's just to show complexity, right? This is about analyzing big data and accepting it comes from a whole range of sources that you need to collect. You need to be matching data sets. You need to be using hypotheses. You create a hypothesis and then you test it, and you create another one and test it. It's about being agile as well as having the specific models, whether it's using the naive Bayes theorem, whether it's using multiple linear regression, discriminant analysis. These are all complicated applications of data analytics, but you've got to fit it into this bigger picture. What is it I need to do? What are the key outcomes that I'm trying to achieve in my data strategy? How will I then use the evaluation of big data to achieve those outcomes?